Aaron Zelman and Paul Lieberstein are the writers, co-developers, executive producers of the AMC dark comedy Lucky Hank. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I want to just kick things off by asking each of you, what do you think the most special and important thing of Lucky Hank is? Aaron, we'll start with you.
Oh man, that's a big one to ask for my friend. Can I finish my coffee? The biggest and most important theme. Well, we talk a lot about I don't want to give too much away in terms of the title, in terms of what that means, because I want it to mean, I want people to come away with their own meaning of that. But I think I'll give you a hint what it means to me, which is, to a certain degree, maybe to a complete degree, we make our own luck in life. We make ourselves happy, or we don't make ourselves happy. And circumstances, they can help or they can hurt, but in the end, it's really up to us. And I think that's a big takeaway for me, that when it comes to the journey of this character and what he's going through.
Paul?
I agree.
Oh, good stuff. Do we, but Paul, maybe explain, Paul, how would you describe Hank as a character to someone? What is his big driver?
This is a guy with a lot going on underneath. There's a lot of there's basically a good person there. There's a person who's kind of doing his best to deal with a bunch of stuff, and whenever he hits adversity in any way, he becomes very kind of sarcastic and jokes his way through it a bit. Not all the time, but that's kind of his go-to reflex reaction. And he's a guy, I don't know, still trying to find his trying to feel good about his place in the world.
Yeah, because we see in Hank, he is balancing there's a lot of humor there, and but there's also a lot of pain, and the show really balances comedy and emotional pain really in an interesting way. Aaron, how do you guys, when you're approaching writing the show, balance those two things and work those two things together?
Well, that was one of the hardest things, and all I can say is that's what life feels like to me. So, it seems like a natural way to approach things, although I think I'm maybe in the minority in that respect. But yeah, it's a hard thing, right? Because you got to look, it's not going to be for everyone. I mean, there'll probably be some people, but I liked it when I like the funny parts that are, not too serious and not too, I don't know. But for us, we felt like, to be true to this character, to really understand him and to really understand where his sort of cynicism comes from, and his avoidant nature. That's something I would add to his character. He certainly tends to, his go-to for a problem is to avoid it before he has to really confront it. Why is he avoidant? Why is he cynical? Or seem to be cynical? I think maybe all cynics are idealists in disguise on some level, but why does he joke about everything? To get to really the truth of those matters, you gotta, we felt that you got to get to some darker stuff in him. And that just felt real to us. And so it was a matter of preparing the audience as much as possible for where we're going without scaring them off or making them think it's going to get, too dark. But it's a real balancing act, one that we never stopped, kind of dealing with and wrestling with way after the writer's room. I mean, in editing and on the set as well.
I guess
I think there's a kind of comedy that's just kind of a manic denial of pain, which is one of our go-tos, I think, for Hank.
Yeah. like I also think, Paul, like there's such like a rhythm to the show and the scenes, and how that sort of rhythm plays out, particularly like, you know, whether that's the dinner party episode, we've got a room full of all the characters,
Yeah.
or in the faculty where, you know, they're doing their votes for who's gonna be the chair of the English department, like to the one-on-one scenes too, like where you've got Dickie Pope and Hank there, and they're just on a completely different page. How important in the writing and in the sort of telling the story is the rhythm of the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, scenes need a varied rhythm, you know. I mean, I think that's one of the things that TV often doesn't do well, and they look at just scenes in an isolated way, instead of the flow between. Um, I love a big group scene, you know. It's a lot of fun. I love to tackle it. You know, it's certainly where I feel a lot of my experience is from. And so and to give a bunch of people a point of views and then just slowly, see this tension build and try to get out. Just everyone gives a jab and trying to get comedy from everywhere. It's a fun, it's a fun puzzle.
Do each of you have a favorite scene in the show?
Oh no.
I mean, if I were going to say, the dinner party episode is it's almost like one, a few long scenes. But especially there is a very long scene. It's probably 10 pages or so, that leads to Hank's sort of breakdown that I am very proud of. And I think I really love it because it kind of does it's very dynamic. It does a lot of things. It has that thing that Paul's talking about with all of those people in the room and being funny and insulting each other and everybody's feelings because of getting hurt throughout. But there's this other bigger thing happening between Hank and Lily, which is all supported by that. And, it took a lot of work to make that work, to set up all the pieces in the right way so that we knew that's what the episode was going to be. It was going to be, that was the scene we were building towards. So how do you do all the work to set it up? It's a lot of work, and it's very exciting to me when it pays off, and I think it did quite well. So that's one of the ones I'm most proud of.
Right, you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that episode was one of our best, for sure, best things we've done, period. I love the first episode that opens the series with the students, and I love the last scene of last night's episode with Hank coming back to his daughter, and just being there for support. I mean, it wasn't much of a scene to write, but it was very impactful. I liked it.
That's a great thing to point out. I'm gonna second that, because sometimes a great scene is just getting the pieces in the right, places, and then letting it unfold in a way that, the actors will do, where we're not doing much on the page, but we know that they'll get there. And sometimes that's the most beautiful thing, very few words.
Bob and Olivia really nailed that. With Nicole Hall center directing. Oh, and also in the week before, there was a scene that I just loved with Murray and Olivia and Daniel, playing Lily and her daughter and husband, where they went into this back room and just tried to kind of negotiate their marriage. It just came out so fun. So it felt real, but it was just fun. fun.
Totally
Yeah.
backfired on Mireille. She's trying to help her. Yeah.
Like that scene at the end of the last episode where they are just quietly there, like it does highlight, perhaps in writing even, like the power of restraint sometimes, and not needing to over explain things and overwrite things, but just letting the characters breathe and having enough faith in the way those characters have been established in previous scenes that things will make sense and come together. How important is that sort of restraint in writing?
Oh, I think Paul and I are both big believers in that. I mean, I can do
Yeah.
it to a fault. Certainly where readers or executives are like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll know from the content, no, and then I'm wrong sometimes, and I'm like, this is kind of flat, because the actors either didn't quite get what you were going for, or the director didn't, or you're just wrong. You thought it was there and it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I thought there was more tension underneath than there was.
Yeah.
But when there's a chance to kind of explore something visually instead of through dialogue, which is our training, it's just all through TV training is really more like a theater, to do it all through dialogue. So there's whenever we're really on the lookout for chances to do something visually.
Yeah, we love thinking visually, both of us as writers. We love thinking, how do you take this moment and turn it from dialogue to a visual, because ultimately it's a visual medium, and that can be the most powerful thing. And TVs have, I mean, it's a cliche at this point, but TVs have gotten bigger and bigger, and they're more like movies if you're watching it at home. Of course, now everyone's maybe watching things on phones and stuff, but even then you're close. And I think audiences are just much more open to visual storytelling than they used to be.
Now, you both wrote, are credited as writers of 3 of the episodes of the show, and from what I understand, it's the second episode, George Saunders, that you're both sort of going to be putting up for consideration at the Emmy Awards coming up. What about that episode was sort of special to you guys?
I would say for me that there was a lot. I think, getting into Hank's backstory, and kind of beginning that journey of telling his deep backstory a little bit. There's a little hint of it at the beginning. I think that episode was really fun because it had some hilarious stuff in it. I think the scene about the swimming pool with the kids, telling them they think it's going to be a baby, and that's definitely one of my favorite scenes. But it also touched on, this deeper journey and his life frustration and his difficulties with his father in a deeper way than the first episode. It got more into it. It just seemed like, I don't know, you could, it sort of was touching on all the things that the show will and does become throughout the season.
Yeah, it was a deepening of Hank without kind of letting go yet of some of the lightness. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was different. I hadn't seen it before.
I
really like that I hadn't seen an episode like that before anywhere.
What was different or unique about that episode, Paul? For you?
That the conflict was just simply, I mean, it would be hard to just say in one line what that conflict is, but it felt very real. You knew he was struggling. You just didn't always know why. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, of just trying to get as much conflict out there from as little as possible. So here's a guy who just a writer who's a little more, who's definitely more successful than he is, just comes to campus, and it takes Hank, through this huge journey that leads him right back to like trying to get attention from his father.
Yeah. when you two collaborated, like, you know, you were working together to develop this series, what do each of you bring to the table? So Aaron, maybe say what like you think Paul brings to the table, and then Paul, you can tell us what Aaron brings to the table.
Oh, look, we're, you know, we have very different backgrounds in terms of our, you know, TV writing experience and show writing experience. And that is like, it could have gone badly, but you know, we didn't know. We were friends for a long time and we didn't before we were collaborators. So, and it just worked. I mean, you know, when something works with another writer, you just know. And I'll speak for myself anyway. I just knew, you know, Paul, I've learned so much from Paul and his writing, and so many, I think there's so many ways in which we complement each other. I think, you know, I mean, look, Paul can write anything. He can write funny stuff. He can write dramatic stuff. He can write it all. And it's just so wonderful to have somebody to be able to trust that, you know, you're both kind of going for the same thing, which is like, and certainly there's conflict. But when you're both going for the same thing, which is, you know, the truest you can get with these characters, and we push each other, you know, and it's just been it's, you know, we were talking about it the other day, we were saying to each other, it's like, it's some of the best writing I've ever done. So maybe the best writing I've ever done. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Paul?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, Aaron's extremely talented. He has an incredible sense of honesty and incredible like bullshit meter, and a really strong sense of what's compelling, and which is generally something I like. I hadn't asked myself in most of my career. It was just what's funny, you know. And that's been really interesting. I've been learning a lot from that. Yeah, it's been a great collaboration. There's a thing we both discovered early on, which was that in we kind of can't agree on in theory when we're talking about something, how something should be. We used to argue for hours, literally. And it was all cured when we realized that we agree on the page almost 100%, you know. And we can never agree on what a scene is supposed to be, right? So we write the scene and we agree completely that it's the scene. But if we started talking about the scene we've already written, we'd be disagreeing about why it works.
We just decided enough talk. Let's get to this.
We just can't do that.
Oh, I love it. Paul, we're also like, we're an awards website at Gold Derby. We love our awards. You were part of that Emmy-winning Office team from the second season of The Office. You also wrote one of the great episodes, Goodbye Toby, of that show. What did you learn from that experience on The Office in terms of like maybe even collaboration? Because you were collaborating in the writer's room, you were collaborating as part of the ensemble that you've carried with you and that has had an impact on you.
Yeah, I definitely feel like one of the big takeaways from that was how much of a dialogue between the actors and writers can be valuable, which is something that like doesn't really exist in most of television. There's stages, you know, in film, I guess, where it comes over. But so we had a great collaboration with Bob that I think I welcomed in a way that I probably couldn't have if I hadn't seen this back and forth with the actors and writers so well. And you know, Bob's a writer too, so that helped it. But yeah, instead of trying to just make the actors do something, you know, it's kind of respecting that there's now another voice that's just as honest and should be heard.
Yeah. And is there a moment from The Office that you just go back to whenever you sort of look back on that experience and time?
Not really. You know, there is for acting.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
because I learned to act on that show. Like everybody there was my acting teacher. And there's one particular moment where I was sitting in the kitchen in a scene with Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin, and the sound guy was saying, "Speak up." He wanted me to be louder, and I was saying, "No, because I'm talking to someone who's 18 inches away from me, and I wouldn't be louder. And this is a naturalistic show, so no." He's like, "But I have to record you." I was like, I don't see a way around this. And then Brian said, "Okay, imagine that we're sitting right next to a refrigerator, which is off because of sound. Imagine the refrigerator is on and you have to speak over that hum." And I was like, oh, right. There's this imagining thing, there's this pretending thing that actors do. And that was a little bit of a wake-up moment for me.
Oh, Brian, so in character, like Kevin's always thinking about the food and the fridge. Like,
Yeah. So very focused on, yeah.
he's on
All his advice came back to
yeah,
the fridge.
yeah. Guys, thank you so much for talking with us today. People can go to this to our website, goldderby.com, to follow the Entertainment Awards and the upcoming Emmys, which leaves me to best of luck for Lucky Hank in those comedy series categories this year. Be really cool to see Bob and the actors break through, as well as you guys for writing and for comedy series. And just, yeah, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Nice to meet you.